And maybe this is a good moment to talk about the very end of Candide, where Candide decides to tend his own garden. Right?
Now, do you see this as a retreat from the world or in any sense positive?
It is.
And why is it in Turkey? What do you make of this?
The novel moves around the world a lot. It's a global novel in that. One of the things that this does, it brings it to a standstill, right? They're no longer going to go on a ship and go to the New World or to Europe or wherever. They're going to stay put. So maybe that's just a kind of the narrative that's been zigzagging the globe is now coming to an end. Maybe that's the first thing one could say about it, sort of just in narrative terms. Is it a retreat from the world? It's not a retreat entirely from the world. It's a slowdown of pace, perhaps, above all.
And we have had this rollicking, very, very fast-paced, slapstick pace going on. And part of the philosophical and ethical challenge for characters is to neither be rigid nor be just totally scattered and chaotic.
Right.
You have to find your center and a grounding in a chaotic world, not retreating to rigidity or just getting drowned, like the Anabaptist gets drowned. You have to find something in between.
Right. I suppose that's what a garden is. Somehow it's nature, but controlled, ordered, harmonized.
Cultiver, right? We have to cultivate. And cultivation matters a lot in every sense. It's moral, aesthetic, and it's really natural. Voltaire had famous, beautiful gardens behind his chateau in Ferny, and there are engravings of him walking through the garden grounds reading a book. He's cultivating his mind, he's cultivating the landscape. And I think very important along with cultivation, so I mean that last phrase, il faut, you have necessity. It is necessary to cultivate, and it is our garden, nos jardins. It is not my garden. So he's creating a minimum community.
We all have to do this, right?
We're in it together, and it no longer matters that Cunegonde is old and scarred by smallpox and so on. They are together. They've gotten past the kind of superficial connection of time, place, sexuality, advantage, and now they're making this world for themselves, which is a whole collective world. And I think the Turkish location is really great because it's this liminal space, this borderline space between Europe and the non-European world. This place that has been for centuries the flashpoint of conflict between the Muslim world and the Christian world, the Ottoman world and the West. Now it is a place where you find balance in between opposed forces, a kind of earthly harmony that would be the equivalent of his version of a best of all possible worlds.
And it really resonates so richly with, again, Leibniz's notion of harmony. Leibniz pioneered the term pre-established harmony, which for him was again a philosophical term which tried to explain why it is that our minds can perceive the world. That there has to be some kind of connection. Could be that our minds are completely ill-equipped to understand anything about the world, and that would be a complete disconnect between the world and our rational selves. But since, according to Leibniz, we can apprehend something about the order of the world has to be constructed such that our minds and the world, that there's some connection, that they are somehow attuned to each other enough for us to recognize order in the world.
And I think with this, the ending is very interesting in respect of, let's say, whether it's Gilgamesh or the Odyssey. It's a different kind of nostos or homecoming. You're exiled early on from your Edenic early life in the castle of Thunder Ten Tronk, which is a parodic Eden, a non-Eden. But you end up at this Garden of Eden. But it's a Garden of Eden not simply established by God with these rules you have to obey, don't touch this or we throw you out. It's a garden that you cultivate. It's a humanist garden, but very much in the sense of a Renaissance Enlightenment humanist that is within a divine order, which you are mirroring in the garden that we humans together have to create.
I know that you see in Candide also something interesting about technology. And I wonder whether this cultivation of the garden, since we are here in the beginning of the scientific revolution, scientific age, and both Voltaire and Leibniz are involved in that, does technology have a place in the garden?
It's very interesting that in El Dorado, the real value added that he has put in that was nothing like that in Thomas More's utopia, early ones, is this is a techno-utopia. These are engineers. They love constructing things. They construct an elaborate device to get Candide and Cacambo back out. There is a sense that the cultivation is now becoming industrialized, is becoming technique. It is breaking down the differences that you might have had formerly between pastoral and civic ideals, and now it should be both. It's the period of the beginnings of scientific agriculture, mechanized cultivation, and the attempt to increase the natural fertility of the land by what you do. So I think it's very much a sense that, in that sense, books are like new forms of navigational aids, like the sextant that is being developed in this period, that you can navigate better. In fact, you could say that the book is now an instrument for navigating the world, just as it is in that engraving where he's navigating his garden by reading.
Right. And of course it is produced, the book, through the printing press in one of the first industrial sort of assembly line type processes, especially in the kind of mass market production that Voltaire participates in.
And it's satirized already in Pococurrante's library, towards the end of Candide there, where the dissolute nobleman who's experienced everything, too much consumption, in his library, Candide compliments him on his edition of Homer, a deluxe edition, handsomely bound. And Pococurrante says, oh, it bores me to tears. No one actually wants to read it. You just have to have it in your library, just like you have to have medals. Coins no longer worth anything in commerce. So you have the kind of idea of the luxury commodity. Whereas for Voltaire, a book is a machine for living. It is a technology. It is something you can use. And I think he has a very strong ethic of work, of use, and of a kind of a moral claim that you're building a society with the tools of building. So Freemasonry is also a very important movement in the period, and you see some Masonic devices in some of the illustrations of Voltaire, as though you're building a new world. He's very much at that Enlightenment belief that you can do this if you can really build harmoniously and kind of unify the seemingly opposed forces of both the male and the female, the European, the non-European, the natural, and the technological.
It seems like that's a nice summary of this kind of new form of world literature that's emerging, that is trying to negotiate between all of these conflicting forces and putting forward some kind of attempt to bring them all into a harmonious relationship.
That's right. I think that's his great masterpiece, has managed to do that. It's precisely the kind of dislocation that runs throughout, of satire versus real, foreign versus here, men versus women. It's a series of dislocations whereby somehow you're actually rewinding the watch.